Okay, so we live in a world that's changing like crazy fast, right? So how do we make sure that the skills we have today don't have an expiration date tomorrow? It's a massive question, and today we're going to unpack it.
Let me ask you something, and be honest. Think about everything you learned in school, in college, maybe your first couple of jobs. Is that knowledge still enough for the world we're living in right now? And what about the world that's coming in 5 years? It's a pretty confronting question, but it's one we've all got to ask ourselves.
And look, this isn't just a vague feeling. The World Economic Forum is telling us that by 2028, which is just around the corner, a whopping 44% of core workplace skills are expected to change. Just let that sink in for a second. Almost half of what we think is essential today could be on its way out.
So what happens when change moves that fast? Well, you get what experts are calling a great skills mismatch. Basically, the skills we have and the skills our schools are teaching are seriously out of sync with what the world actually needs. It's kind of like trying to navigate with Google Maps, but your map data is from 1995. It's just not going to work. And here's the absolute heart of the problem. A lot of our educational system, the way we think about learning, was designed for the industrial age, an era of predictability, of standardization. But we are so not in that world anymore. We are staring down a deeply unpredictable future, but we're still holding on to an old, outdated toolkit. And that means we need a completely new game plan.
All right, so if the old world is gone, where exactly are we heading? To get a grip on that, we've got to look at how we got here. Society has always moved in these huge waves of change, these industrial revolutions. And right now, we are in the middle of a big one, moving from what we call Industry 4.0 into the new era, Industry 5.0.
It's been quite a ride, right? We started with Industry 1.0, which was all about steam power. Then came 2.0, with electricity and the assembly line. 3.0 brought us computers and automation, and 4.0, well, that's the digital revolution we've been living through. But now we're stepping into Industry 5.0, and this one's different. It's all about a much deeper, much smarter collaboration between people and machines.
And you guessed it, education is trying to keep up. Education 4.0 was all about, hey, let's use digital tools to be more efficient. But Education 5.0 is a huge leap. It's about realizing that technology alone isn't the answer. We need a more human-centric, more ethical approach, where we don't just use tech, we coexist with it. We leverage it to amplify our uniquely human talents, not just to replace them.
So how do we actually build this new way of learning and working for ourselves? It really boils down to asking 4 absolutely critical questions. These are the questions we have to answer if we're going to design a future where we can all actually thrive, not just survive.
The very first question is this: how do we find the right balance between technology and our own humanity? And wow, this quote just nails it. We're talking about a new division of labor. It's not a competition, humans versus machines. It's a partnership. And we have to figure out who's best at doing what.
And you know what? That division of labor is getting clearer every day. AI is incredible at routine, replicable tasks. Processing tons of data, handling admin work, all that stuff. And that actually frees us up to double down on what makes us human: creativity, empathy, complex problem solving, and critical thinking. These skills, the ones we used to call soft skills, are actually becoming the most valuable, most durable skills you can have.
This whole new world leads us right to our second big question. In a world that's always in flux, what's the better bet? Should you go deep and become a super specialist in one narrow field? Or is it better to be a generalist with a broad, adaptable set of skills?
And the answer, maybe surprisingly, is you need to be both. It's a paradox, right? But think about it. Deep, specialized knowledge is what fuels real creation. You can't come up with a breakthrough idea if you don't deeply understand the subject. But it's your broad, transferable skills that let you adapt to take that deep expertise and apply it to a totally new problem or even a completely different industry.
Which brings us to question number 3. What kind of thinking do we actually need to cultivate? There's a powerful framework for this, often called the 4 C's. We're talking about critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaborative problem solving. And listen, these aren't just buzzwords for a resume. These are the skills that allow us to tackle messy, unpredictable problems, the very kinds of problems that AI can't figure out on its own.
Okay, and for our final question, how do we actually put all these skills to work? Well, it all comes down to your mindset. You've probably heard that we live in a VUCA world that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And yeah, that can sound pretty scary, like a threat.
But what if you choose to see it differently? With the right mindset, you can flip the script. Volatility becomes vision, uncertainty becomes understanding, complexity becomes clarity, and ambiguity becomes agility. It's all about how you frame it.
All right, we've talked about the problem, we've broken down the big questions. Now let's get to the good stuff. Let's look at a framework that pulls all of these ideas together into a practical, actionable model for how to actually thrive in this new era.
So the ultimate goal of this new model is something called cognitive productivity. Now, this isn't just about cramming more facts into your brain. No way. It's about being able to apply what you know to brand new, totally unexpected situations. Think of it as your brain's ability to connect the dots in new ways, to create value no matter how much your job or the world around you changes.
The first pillar of this model is resilience. But this isn't just about being tough or bouncing back when things get hard. It's more proactive than that. It's about flourishing with a real sense of purpose, having a growth mindset that truly embraces challenges, and being an active driver of change in your own life.
Pillar number 2 is learning, and this is a big one. In the 21st century, learning is not some event that ends with a graduation ceremony. It's a continuous, lifelong process. It means you're committed to constantly developing yourself and to mastering new literacies, especially understanding how to work smartly and ethically alongside AI.
And that brings us to our third and final pillar, adaptability. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Being truly adaptable means striking that perfect balance between our unique human skills and the latest tech skills. It means having a rock-solid command of those transferable 4 C's we talked about, and ultimately achieving that state of true cognitive productivity.
Okay, so we've covered some big ideas here, from industrial revolutions to this whole new model for thriving. But let's bring it all home. What does this actually mean for you personally, right here and right now? How do you take this and apply it to your career, to your life?
Because here's the thing. While our education system definitely needs a massive overhaul, the fastest, most powerful change starts with us. It's about making a personal commitment to become a lifelong learner. It's about seeing constant change not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth. It's about consciously deciding to upgrade your own mental software for the era we're already living in.
People are calling this the reskilling revolution, and it's not some far-off, futuristic idea. It is happening as we speak. So the real question isn't if it's coming. It's already here. The only question left is, how are you going to join?